Okay, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to get back to doing a little bit of stuff on the Baja Bug. I'm going to go ahead and finish weld some of the pipes, and I'm going to show you how I set up the machine, kind of some of the, I don't know if it's rules, but some of the things I do to weld, to make my welds good and penetrate well, and they're going to hold. The bar will end up bending and breaking before the welds will break, so that's what you want. That's the goal. You want your welds to be stronger than the stuff you're welding to. So with that said, I'll kind of go through how to set up the machine, how to set up my machine. Everybody's a little bit different. You just have to play around with it, guys. You have to get some scrap material of what you're welding, clean it off, you know, and tack some of it together and lay down some beads and play with the machine, play with your voltage, play with your wire feed. On my machine, it's just it's one of those titanium machines that you get like from Harbor Freight. It'll run on 110 volts, or it'll run on 220, either one. The shielding gas is it's basically like 75-25, which is, 75 argon. I don't know if you can see that. 75 argon, 25% carbon dioxide. So whenever you go to the gas place to get you a bottle, just tell them you want it, 75-25 for a MIG welder, shielding gas. I run my machine, the way I run it is on the gauge here. Here's your pressure of what you have in the tank. And then here's the pressure that you have when you're running, when you press the trigger. This is the pressure that's coming out of the actual end of the MIG gun. Now this is the pressure that it is holding. If you'll see, when I press the trigger, watch how it drops. See how it drops? I run it at about 12 psi right here. So it'll start here, but then it'll drop down a little bit when you're actually running. So I run it about 12, 13 or so is what I run it at. Seems to do fairly well. Now, I'll have to play with the machine a little bit because I was welding on other stuff. So this is probably not the settings for this 1.5-inch, 93 thousandths wall tubing. So I'll get a couple scrap pieces and I'll lay down some beads, make sure I'm getting real good penetration and heat before I actually go to welding it on the actual bug. So that's what we're going to do today. I think I'm going to finish weld this pipe in on both ends. I'm going to finish weld the front up here. So these pipes here, because they're not going nowhere, those are where I want them. So I'm going to finish weld all of these. So that's what we're going to get started on. So first off, I'll try and get you I got another helmet here that I'll put over the camera, and I'll see if I can't get a good visual of what I'm actually doing with the metal as it's melting, so you can kind of see how I'm moving the MIG gun to manipulate the weld and the puddle where I want it to go. So I got some scrap stuff. I'll get that stuff ready, and then I'll tack some stuff up, and then I'll show you. I'll just clean up a couple of these pieces here, and then I'll just butt them together with a little bit of a gap, and then I'll weld them up and see how much penetration I get. I hate these new triggers from Harbor Freight on these grinders. Alright. I do put a little bit of a bevel on there. I don't know if you can see that. I bevel this a little bit, this edge, on both of them. That way when they go together, so there's like a little bit of a, and then I'll plus I leave a little bit of a gap. So I'll tack them together like that. I won't have them butted right up tight. I'll have them gapped out just a little bit. Now see how this is mild steel? I run my helmet. These lenses have a different darkness setting. This is an automatic one, so it gets dark as soon as I strike an arc. Mild steel, I usually run it at like a shade 9 or 10. If you're gonna do like aluminum or stainless steel or something like that, you'll probably wanna run that shield a little bit darker because the arc is a lot brighter. So you'll probably wanna run it at like a 12 maybe, or 13 even. Now what I always do, it's always like a good rule of thumb to me, I guess, is when I put these two together, like this, I'll take a piece of the actual wire that I'm using out of the MIG gun, and I'll put it in between here. So that'll be my gap that I put across this. So I'll actually gap it like that when I tack it together. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So this is what that looks like. So I have that piece of wire in there. That's the gap I'll use when welding this. So it's gapped a little bit. I don't know if you can see the daylight through there, but I can already tell that the machine probably needs to be set up a little bit hotter. So right now I'm on 14 volts. Wire feeds at 150, which what I'll do is I'll weld half of it. See what that looks like, and then we'll go from there. I might be able to show you a little bit better when I'm welding this here in just a second. I'll get this all set up. I'm going to weld it right here. I'll turn the wire feed up to 170. Alright, so I'm going to try and bring you guys in here and see if I can't get this better video of me actually welding. I've never done this before. I'm out here by myself, so it's going to be kind of hard to do this, if I can at all. I don't know if that worked at all or not. I don't know if that worked at all or not. But if you look at this weld right here, you can tell it's got way too much wire and probably not enough heat. So I'll turn the heat up to we'll go 16, and I'll put the wire speed at 150. So 16 and 150. I don't know if that'll mess up my camera videoing that or not. I don't know if that'll mess up my camera videoing that or not. But I'm out here by myself, so it's kind of hard to. Alright, so Here's the difference. Those two welds are. Here's exactly what the difference is. So I had it set at 13.5 and 170 wire feed. Now I have it set at 16 volts and 150 wire speed. So now look at the difference between this weld that I just did at 16 and 150 versus this weld. See how it's humped up? So that's too much wire, not enough amperage or voltage. And this one's just about right. See how flush it is? It's nice and smooth. There's a little bit of weld over the top, you know what I mean, of the piece you're welding, so you have complete fillage of the gap. So this is what you're looking for, that right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue the rest of the weld, and then we're gonna see how much penetration we're getting with that. I might be able to see it. I might be able to see it right now. It's kind of hard to tell without the light, without a light being in there, but I'll run the bead right here. I'll run it from here, this tack to that tack, and you want it to try and lay in there nice and smooth. That's your goal. So we'll see if I can do that. You want it to kind of sound like, I always say like frying eggs, you know, like a crispy sound. That was smooth one. So, here's the bead I just laid down just now. And it wasn't really smooth and crispy sounding, but see how it looks. So see how it's like smooth. It's not humped up. It's nice and kind of uniform. It's not wonderful, but looks a lot better than that one. See that one right there? That was the one that was too cold. So it was not enough voltage and too much wire speed there. There's about what you're wanting. About like that. So I'll go ahead and finish that off again, and we'll see what it looks like. Now you can also, say you're having a little bit too much wire. So maybe it's humped up just a little bit more than what you'd like. You can always speed up your pace a little bit. So this one I slowed down just a little bit, and you'll be able to tell the difference. See, I slowed down on that one a little bit, and it's a little bit more raised there than it is there. So you can adjust your pace of your weld to also put more wire in or not. So there's a few things you can do to change how your weld looks. More voltage, more amperage, more or less wire, and faster or slower speed. So you want a combination of all three of those to get the nice, smooth, uniform looking weld all the way around. I was always taught when I was taking welding in high school, I was always taught by a couple of my awesome welding teachers. You guys know who you are, Jan and Mike. They've always told us you should never have to take a grinder to your welds. Your weld should look pretty enough to where you'd want to beat somebody's butt for taking a grinder to one of your welds. And that's what I've always kind of strived to accomplish. You know, I mean, you want your weld bead to be pretty enough to where you can just leave it on there. MIG welding, TIG welding, any kind of welding, that's what you want to be able to do. So that's what I've always strived to do that. And I know a lot of the guys that was in the classes with me, they were the same way. And then if we look inside of here, let me see if I can't get a light. All right, this might be kind of hard. Might be kind of hard to see. But if you look down in this tube now, where I've welded this, I don't know if you can see down in there. See that line where that joint is? That's weld coming through that line. So that's the perfect amount of penetration. What the ideal goal is on the inside of the weld, like inside there. If you want it to try to make it look like you welded it from the inside when you were never even in the inside. So that penetration there is, if I can get the light to shine, exactly what I'm trying to show you. There we go. So that's the penetration you're wanting. Nice and even all the way around. So now I know that machine is set up perfectly. So that way, when I run a bead of weld around here, I know that it's penetrating all the way through, all the way around into there. I'm getting good penetration. And I know that weld is not going to break before this pipe bends completely and probably breaks or rips the pipe off before it breaks the weld. So that's the whole goal. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out these other two real quick. Now with these, you have to kind of consider what you're doing. Like, I'm welding this now, which is 093 wall, to this huge thick piece of metal here. So I have a little bit more gap here, and I'm going to go a lot slower so that way the heat can penetrate into this. So I'm going to be focusing a lot of the weld puddle on the thicker part, and then I'm going to drag it to the tubing. So I'm going to do like a little sideways motion like that, kind of like a side by side. Here, let me get a so say this screwdriver was my MIG gun. So when I do this one right here, I'm going to do like a lot of heat here, and then I'm going to drag it over to the pipe there. And then I'm going to go back up here, hold for a second, drag it over here. Back up here, hold for a second, drag it over here. Because I want all the heat to be here to melt this metal, which is a lot thicker. Then I can pull it to here and melt this metal to this tube. So you kind of want to take that in consideration. On what you're welding and what you're welding to. Now this stuff right here is called it's like an anti-spatter. I spray that around the tubes, and it keeps the weld spatter from sticking to the pipe, so I'll have to do less cleaning. And this is another thing. If say I'm welding right here, okay, what I'm gonna be doing, I want my ground clamp to be pretty close to my work area. I don't want my ground clamp to be up on this height, because then now it has to go through here, all the electricity has to pass through here to get to my arc. If I go to here, now my electricity just goes from here to here. So my arc will be much more stable and be a lot better. Now sometimes you can't do that, but you want to try to do that if you can. So now, I gotta get down here on my knees, which ain't gonna be no fun. I do have a little spray bottle full of water right over there. That way if I do catch myself on fire or something else on fire, we'll be good to go. So what I'm gonna do is, you always kind of want to map out how you're gonna do your weld too. Like right now, I think I'm gonna go, may try and reach under here as far as I can and go a vertical up this way, tie it in here, and then go to the other side. So we'll see if that works out. I got a real long arc there because it's real deep in there. It's not going to be easy to weld that. So what I may do to compensate for that is up my wire speed from 150. We'll try 170. That'll put my wire coming out faster. Alright, the bottom part was kind of a little sketchy on the bottom. I'll show you. I'm not afraid to let you look at it. It was real far in there to try and get that weld in there. So I'll show you what I was talking about. So my cup was stuck here. I couldn't get it no further. Right through here. See how far away that is? So that weld down in there is really tough to get on both of those tubes. I'm melting this and going to the tube all the way up through here, so I got to have a real long arc, which is not good. See how once I got to the top and I could get a little bit closer, see how the weld flattened out and melted in there much better? So doing the other side should be a little bit easier, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the opposite side, but I'm gonna do it on this end first because you wanna transfer your heat. So I've welded this side, so now this is heated up and it's gonna start wanting to pull. So it's gonna start wanting to pull this bar this direction, which is pulling this into this bar this direction. So what I need to do is I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna run this weld down this side. That way I have one on that side and one on this side essentially. And then I'll come back over here, do this one, and then do that one. If that makes any sense. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this one. If I put you right here, I'll probably be in the way. So I'm probably gonna be right, probably gonna end up being right in the way for me to be able to see it. And you guys need to be able to see it. So I'm still gonna go vertical up. That was not easy either. So I'll show you why it wasn't easy. I have a very big gap to fill because the outer part, I'll show you, I'll get a light. The outer part of this pipe right here. So here you can see, well, you can probably see it better from this side. See the light coming through there? Well, that side's tight. This side over here on this side had a pretty good sized gap, and you can see how much weld is coming through there? That's from my gap that I had over there. So see how it looks like I welded that from the inside? That's how it's gonna look all the way around, and that's what you want it to look like. It's kind of hard to see. There, that's better. See how that's kind of looks like a weld on the inside? So that's why that one's kind of difficult to do. I might be able to show you better on this side. This side was a little bit tighter, but I'll show you the gap that I got to fill. See the gap? See that gap? So see, same thing on this side. See how my weld looks like I welded it from this side when I did the back? Because of see how much penetration I got there? It looks like I welded it from this direction when I didn't. But see the size of the gap that I got going on here? I mean, that's a good sized gap. That's why that side over there was so rough to just did that weld that I just did. It took a long time because I have to let that wire fill that gap before I pull it. I weld to the thicker piece, let that wire build up there, and then I pull it over to the thinner tube, and then go back. Let it sit there a minute, and then pull it over, and then go back. A big gap like that sometimes takes a little bit of time, so. Now this one, now that I have that, I'll come back over to this side, and I'll do basically the same thing. So you can see the size of that gap right there that I'm filling. And you could use like filler wire, you know, I've seen people use, I've seen people use coat hangers, I've seen people use other filler wire. Like I could use a stick of filler wire, like if I wanted to do I have filler wire over here, mild steel. I fall on my butt. See, I've got mild steel filler wire that I could use inside there to take up some of that gap, but I'm pretty confident in my welding, and I take my time and I can lay it in there pretty decent, so I don't really, I just let the MIG gun do the work. I can show you how to do it though if you want to. I guess I can show you how it's done in case you run into that same situation and you know want to use filler wire or have to use filler wire. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to map out my weld again. So here, I'm going to start here and I'm going to go all the way up and around, all the way to the top. So I can't really see that good. I know you guys aren't going to be able to see it all. So it's a pretty good sized gap. Let me try and lay some of this in there and see if that helps. I don't know. Not happy with any of that. That was rocky. That was a little rocky, a little sloppy. Not thrilled with it, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway. So there you go. It's a little bulky, kind of boogery right there. But we'll see what it looks like from the other side. I'm not that concerned with that weld because you're not really gonna see it where it's at. Thankfully for me, you're not gonna really see it. But the penetration is pretty spot on. So it's welded good. That's all that really matters to me. I mean, like I said, it is kind of ugly. It is tied into that other piece back there, but it doesn't look too bad on the top. But a little ugly, especially for me, I guess. I'm not that happy with it. Now this one, of course, we're back to at least the fitment is better. Move our ground cable close. Our fitment's better, but our the angle that I can't get the gun in, the nozzle in there close, so you kind of fix one problem, but then you're left with another one. Especially with these with these welds. I mean, once I go to welding the ones on the other tubes, it'll be a lot easier to get to them. They won't be as much of a standing on your head trying to weld type of thing. Now this anti-spatter, you can also spray it in your gun nozzle too. It's for both. So that way you don't get spatter sticking to the inside of your gun. That's what happened over there on that one. The angle I was at, I was getting a lot of metal sticking to the tip, which isn't good. Because then it wants to stick the gun to your project. Same thing. A little bulky at the bottom. But it's in there good. Check the penetration on this side. Can't really see it with the light. I gotta hit the very bottom. I got a spot the very bottom I gotta hit. That's gonna be a fill weld. I can't see nothing. So what I'm actually gonna do, I'm actually gonna weld it from the gun's gonna be on the back side, and I'm gonna look at the puddle from this side. Yeah, I'll show you what happened there. So I had it completely upside down, and all that weld was running into the tip. Well, that man just did that tip in. Saved it. Alright, so that probably doesn't look good at all. But I'll show you the penetration that I got anyway. I'm sure the bottom looks terrible. Not terrible, but so penetration there. Even though I couldn't see it, I was watching this side of it. What I'll probably do is I can go ahead and run a bead on this side if I wanted to, like in the bottom there, just to have you know, a little more weld, I guess, holding that piece. Since how this is going to be supporting this back, which is going to be supporting the shocks. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll run a little bead in there now. Since I'm not going as far, I don't have that gap, I want to turn this back down to 150. So still 16 volts, but now I'm running at 150 wire speed. I can't see nothing. I said that tip's okay, it may not be. Yeah, tip's sticking a little bit, causing the wire to be jerky. So you can hear it. May have to go ahead and switch to another tip. So we'll switch this one out. You want to make sure you have the right tip for what you're running. So whatever your wire diameter has to be what your tip diameter is. I'm running 035 wire, so I gotta have a 035 tip. So 035 wire, 035 tip. Now I'll spray it good. That way, hopefully nothing else will stick to it. Sounds like a trombone, don't it? Trombone. I'll go ahead and hit this one too. Just a little bit. Doesn't really need it. But I'd like to show you guys some more just welds as far as like how to work the weld. Like I don't know if that messes up my phone camera or not. And I'm out here by myself, so I can't really have nobody else showing you through a lens. So that kind of sucks. Now see these here, I won't weld these completely until I get the brace bars from here to here. So I want this braced and these even, the right height and all that. Like if I put the level across there now, you'll be able to tell that they're perfectly level. So both of these are the exact height I want. So what I need to do is I need to brace these first, here to here on both sides, before I weld that. So once I weld that, that weld could pull this bar up and down as you're welding it. So, but I can move to the front here and weld this since how it's exactly where it's gonna be. And I can weld this one and I can weld all of that one. So we'll do that. Of course, ground as close as possible. Some anti-spatter spray. Some for the nozzle, some for your tip. Just the tip. All right, now, my welder's kind of far away over there. So, to map out my weld here, I could change where I have it plugged in at, plug it in over here somewhere, but try and go from here. I'm probably gonna have to tack it here and go in force. So I'll have to go here to here, and then see those bars in the way. I may have to do that. I may do that, and then I'll come from inside here, I guess. Maybe stand on my head and see it. Sure, why not? And I'll go from here this way. And then I'll put a tack in here, right here in the middle. Then I'll go from here to here. And then I'll go from the outside here, maybe, if I can get my welder close enough. Alright, so when you hear that nice crackling noise, you know, they say, a lot of people say, oh, it sounds like frying eggs or whatever. It's kind of what they're talking about, that noise right there. That's what they're talking about. And then, let me get my wire brush and I'll show you. Whatever I did with it. Here we go. And I'll show you what we just did, what it looks like. All right. I don't know if you can see that or not. Kind of making you guys sick, I guess, probably. But that's kind of laid in there nice. You don't have any undercut on the edges. If you start to get like an undercut on the edge, like where it's like coped out on both there and there, then your heat's too high. You want to turn your heat down. But like right there, there's a weld underneath there, so that right there is no big deal because those aren't really holes. See how that looks around there? Nice and filled in. And I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch it with a grinder. I'm not going to touch it with nothing. That wire wheel right there, that's all it's going to get. And then it's going to get painted. So now let's just continue on. Same thing. Rinse and repeat. Supervisor's out here whining. She wants in. They also make for these nozzles, they make like a cup that has this anti-spatter gel that you can just stick your nozzle in. That stuff's real nice. Real nice. Now this one I can probably go all the way around. So I can go from here all the way around to here. My helmet doesn't fall off. I could have. That sucks. I don't like stopping a weld when I know I can go all the way around. Oh yeah, that's hot. Got a little warm by the time I got back here. But still good. Starts getting warm like that, you can do like a, you know, quick couple seconds, stop, move a little forward, quick couple seconds, stop. You know, kind of like laying it on top of each other if it gets hot like that. So now what I'll probably do is I'll probably move up to this top one on this bar, move up here, do it just like that. I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably not. Like that. And now I'll go back to this side. I'll go from here, that direction. You know, probably 75% of welding and getting a good weld is positioning. You can position yourself to make a good weld. Sometimes you're holding yourself up with your core, trying to keep you from, you know what I mean? Trying to keep yourself still and at a certain spot. Like that, that's kind of hard to get to that. Same way with this. I mean, probably not so much this one, but that one. That one was kind of rough to get to. Because it was left-handed for me. Plus upside down, so this was kind of going to be kind of the same way, but I can at least see this one. So that one wasn't that bad because I can at least see it. Still upside down, but I'll show you what those look like real quick. Yeah, so that's how they'll stay. I'm not gonna touch them with nothing. Supervisor approves. Macaroni's out here. He's wanting to go inside. It's late. It's probably going on 1 a.m. probably right now. Maybe 2 o'clock. 2 a.m. So I'm gonna hit both of these. Tie that bar in. That's definitely where I want it. Pipe's a little warm. Can't put my arm on that. Ooh, it's real hot up there. Woo! Now I stopped right there because my lens fogged up. I couldn't see where I was going, so don't be afraid to stop. If you can't see what you're doing, stop. That way you don't mess it up. Stop and then you can go back to it. Now see there, I had to do a combination. I started off welding with a good bead, kind of back and forth, and then it started to get hot. So it's starting to blow through this pipe, so I had to stop. Hit the trigger, put just a little dot, stop, hit the trigger, put a little dot, and then I finish off with a bead again. Because sometimes you have to vary up your your whatever you're doing to accommodate for, you know, this tube right here is real thin where I have it coked. So of course it's going to burn out a lot quicker. Do you ever hear people say something about cold start? What it looks like? This is what they're talking about. And it kind of stinks. It's better if you're gonna, like if I was doing something that had to be like judged, or it was gonna be like a showpiece. Whenever you stop, like we do your tacks, you'd want to grind your tacks a little bit. Otherwise you get this. See that little dot right there? That's called a cold start. So sometimes what you can do is you can arc away from it and then come back to it, and that'll diminish that a little bit flatter. But see how the rest of the weld laid in there pretty good? But if you ever hear somebody say something about cold start, I can see it, you know, that's what they're talking about. You know, something you're going to see on the outside of the cage, maybe, like you're not going to be able to see that in this car. Not at all. You're not going to be able to see that at all. That's going to be up underneath the dash. The dash is going here, so all this is going to be the footwell, so you're not going to see any of that. So see right here, I got a pretty good gap right here. So I don't know if you can see that where you're at. That right there is a pretty good gap in there. So I'm going to use the filler wire for there. I'm going to show you how to do that. Kind of like TIG welding. You're using filler wire and you're using the MIG gun all at the same time. So see how big this gap is right here? What I'll do is, I'll take this filler wire and I'll fill this all in, and I'll stop right there. Maybe. If my helmet don't fall off. Woo, that one's hot. That one right there is still hot. And leave a mark. Ooh, I can smell the skin of burning. Woo! Alright, still gotta do a bottom one here. Here comes the supervisor, Sharon. She heard OSHA recordable. Get back, folks, get back. And whenever you get done welding, let off the trigger, keep your nozzle by the edge of the weld until your gas quits flowing, because you want that end of that metal to still be protected by that gas flow so it doesn't get contaminated. It's a little bit faster when I'm not trying to explain it, you know what I mean? Plus, the more you do it, the faster you'll get. But I'm gonna go ahead and probably knock out a few more of these, and I appreciate you guys watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends, you know, and but yeah, welding is I love welding, but it definitely takes practice. And don't be afraid to play with your machine. Play with your voltage, play with your amperage, you know what I mean? Play with your wire speed. So right now mine's set on 16 volts and 150 wire speed on this machine. And it's running on 110, it's not running on 220 power, so. I appreciate you guys watching, and you know, remember, there ain't nothing to it but to do it.